You're sitting there right now completely still, or at least that's what it feels like, but you're not still. You're moving right now at almost 1,000 miles an hour. Not in a car, not on a plane. You're moving because the Earth is spinning and you're spinning with it every single second of your entire life, and you have never felt it once. Now imagine that spin just for 5 seconds stopped completely. 5 seconds sounds like nothing. That's how long it takes to sneeze, but those 5 seconds would be enough to end almost everything living on the surface of this planet. Let's find out why. First, you need to understand how fast this planet is actually moving. At the equator, the surface of the Earth is spinning at roughly 1,000 miles an hour. That's faster than most commercial jets cruise at. Even somewhere like New York, further from the equator, you're still being carried around at close to 800 miles an hour. You don't feel any of it for the same reason you don't feel speed on a smooth flight at cruising altitude. Everything around you, the air, the oceans, your own body, is moving at that exact same speed at the exact same time. No friction, no resistance, no signal that you're moving at all. But physics doesn't care how calm that feels. There's a law called inertia, and it's brutally simple. A moving object wants to keep moving at that same speed in that same direction until something forces it to stop. The ground beneath you is physically locked to the Earth's rotation. If it suddenly stopped, that stop would transfer into you almost instantly because you're pinned to the ground by friction and gravity. But the atmosphere above you isn't locked to anything. The air would keep moving at its old speed while the land underneath it slammed to a halt. That means wind, not a storm, not a hurricane. Winds well over 1,000 miles an hour, hitting the entire planet at once, all moving in the direction the Earth used to spin. Buildings wouldn't just be damaged, they'd be erased. Trees would be ripped out of the ground in a fraction of a second. Anything not bolted deep into bedrock, cars, bridges, entire towns would be swept away like it had been hit by a tornado with no edges, because this one wouldn't have an edge. It would cover the whole planet at once. The oceans would go through the exact same thing. Water, just like air, wouldn't stop when the ground did. It would keep moving at its old momentum, piling up into waves that don't resemble anything you've ever heard of. We're not talking about a tsunami a few meters tall. We're talking about walls of water hundreds of meters high, moving across entire continents, wiping out coastlines, and every city sitting anywhere near them. And then there's you. Your own body is moving at the exact same speed as the ground beneath your feet. If that ground stops instantly and you're locked to it, your body tries to keep moving at over 1,000 miles an hour. That's bullet speed. Human bodies aren't built to survive that kind of sudden deceleration, the same way you wouldn't survive being thrown from a car crash at that velocity. There's a deeper layer to this too. The Earth's core is liquid iron, spinning somewhat independently of the crust, and that motion is what generates the magnetic field protecting us from solar radiation. If the crust suddenly stopped while the core kept moving at its own pace, you'd get massive internal stress building up inside the planet. Earthquakes everywhere, all at once, along every fault line that exists. Now, 5 seconds sound short, but in 5 seconds, all of this is already in motion. The winds would hit catastrophic speed almost instantly. The waves would start forming immediately, even though their full destructive force wouldn't land until later, once the water finally crashes into land. The earthquakes would begin within the first second. 5 seconds isn't enough time for the planet to recover. It's just enough time to set the disaster in motion and make it unstoppable. And here's the part that makes it worse. We said the spin stops for exactly 5 seconds. That means after those 5 seconds, the Earth starts spinning again, and probably violently, not gradually. Anything that survived the first shock would now go through the same chaos in reverse. The wind would slam the other direction. New waves would collide with the waves still forming. That's not recovery. That's a second impact landing right on top of the first. What this actually reveals is how deceptive that stillness you feel really is. You are never standing still. You spend your entire life in constant, massive motion, and the only reason you never notice is because everything around you moves in perfect sync with you. No jolt, no friction, no reminder. Same goes for the air you breathe, the oceans covering most of this planet, and the ground under your feet. All of it is racing through space at the same speed in total silence with zero indication any of it is happening. The Earth has been spinning at this speed for roughly 4.5 billion years, and it is slowing down, but so slowly the human mind can barely process it about 2 milliseconds every century. What feels to us like absolute stability, solid ground, a horizon that never moves, day following night in a perfect rhythm, is actually one of the most violent motions in nature, just synchronized so perfectly that we've turned it into something invisible. And maybe that's the strangest part of all. You live on a planet hurtling through the dark at bullet speed, and the only thing standing between you and the catastrophe we just imagined is the simple fact that nothing ever actually stops. Nothing around you is ever standing still. Not you, not the ground, not the planet. And somehow, that's the most normal thing in the world. Subscribe if you want more of this. See you next time.